That ain't right, the amount of tax we've got to pay on the day's catch, I tell you. So, well, I never would have flown in my old man's day. He said, well, how's nobody supposed to make a living now with him taking like that much of that percentage of your catch every day? The other one goes, well, you're right there, Fred. He says, well, I reckon about half of what I catch just goes straight to go, what a bloody hell does Crown need my fish for? Oh, you didn't tell me you were going to be ringing a leper through, sir. Save a bit of time.
Yeah, well, Mick will whip his shirt off and he'll like juggle his belly at him and do like a little. He'll squeeze it to make like a talking mouth. I ain't got the plague.
He leans in a little bit closer. I even heard that they had one of the witch hammers out there looking into the potentially infernal way that the assailant escaped, if you know what I mean.
Okay, we have to pick the lock first, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. So I guess Mick.
What are you implying, man?
I'm better opening people.
Bodies, yeah.
It just so happens that I brought a few tools along with me for just such an eventuality.
So perhaps it is in everyone's best interest if we just go our separate ways.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll accompany you to the exit to make sure you leave, and we'll see what the Peakers have to say about this.
At which point I would like to punch him in the face. What that does is, it's a 20-foot diameter.
Okay.
And anyone in it takes 1d8 damage.
Okay, so what I'm assuming you're going to do is you're going to wait till like they're like, because obviously jackdaws come inside now to the vat room. You're going to wait till they're just sort of coming past the door, and then you're going to be like, right, everyone else is behind me. Boom, there's the spell. Okay, so roll your damage.
Will I roll one or?
Yeah, just roll one, and we'll just do it to both of them.
Come on, max damage.
Oh, you're absolutely shit.
Okay, so as you sort of you dive through the door behind the friar, he holds out his hand, and there's this burst of incredibly loud sound, almost like God had picked up an electric guitar and just like thrashed out a chord on it. Although it doesn't really do much damage, it throws the two peakers like back out through this door, back into the library. The blue door slams shut with the force of this sound burst and vanishes. Fleeing from the Peakers, the heroes find themselves in a strange, otherworldly library in a room full of vats with grinding gears and mechanisms high up in the roof above them. Each of the vats is full of a strange, differently coloured ink, and there are brass taps on the vats. The friar takes a sample of each of the inks, noting that one of them has a strange, dark, almost blacker than black coloration, and makes a screaming sound when it is poured. Disturbed by this, but weary from their various excerpts, they all decide to rest and set up a series of watches in case anything should come upon them while they're unaware. So, Friar Dunstan, on your watch, as your two fellows are sort of like sleeping, you've made yourself as comfortable as you can in this strange, otherworldly place. As you're looking around, you're keeping an eye on what's going on, you hear these odd sort of shuffling, furtive sounding footsteps. They seem to be coming from just around one of these almost omnipresent bookshelves that seem to line the walls. You've had time to have a brief look at a few of the books in this area, and they seem mostly to do with like the compositions of ink and the various different ways of calligraphy and stuff like that.
So can I it's the far side of the bookcase, is it?
Yep.
And can I look through the bookcase to see if I can see anything?
Yeah, you could certainly pull a book down and like peek through the hole. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Okay, so as you peek through the hole, as you sort of pull the book down, you can see that just beyond the bookcase, it's fairly dimly lit in this place. Obviously, you guys have got lights and all that sort of stuff. But as you peer through, you can see like a soft golden light on the other side of the bookshelf. And as you peer through the space at the book you're holding, a treatise on what the best sort of powder is used to like dab your ink off with, you see what appears to be a small, no larger than a child, a small hunched figure. It's wearing what must have once been a bright red robe with a hood pulled down, but the robe is very faded and sort of dulled by the passage of time. This small figure appears to be carrying a pole with a lamp hooked onto the end of it, and as it's moving you see the pole swaying about and the lantern bobbing up and down. Cautiously the friar moves around the bookcase, approaching the diminutive form and attempts to address it.
Well met. How are you?
Okay, as you approach it, this small wizened figure, and like I say, it's no more than like a very young sort of child in terms of size, looks up at you, and you can see it has the face of what appears to be a very wizened looking old man. The skin's quite sort of puckered and deeply lined. You can see that its eyes are looking ahead of it, but its eyes are like entirely white and they appear quite staring and unfocused. It stops as you sort of approach it and say, well met, but it doesn't really seem to see you. It's almost as though it's like looking through you, but it stops and the lantern stops bobbing around. The friar attempts to communicate with the small figure, however it either cannot speak or does not seem interested in responding. Eventually he allows it to return to its rounds, and it continues walking off into the distance of this strange otherworldly library, pausing momentarily by certain bookshelves to inspect the contents by the light of its lantern. Watching it retreat into the dimness, Friar Dunstan returns to his companions to finish off his watch. Okay, that's absolutely fine. It's difficult to tell whether it's night or day because you can't see any like windows showing up the outside world. All the walls are covered in like these bookshelves with numerous, from new to like ancient books, scrolls to letters to everything in between, every type of paperwork you can imagine. So you're not really sure how much time has passed or whether it's day or night, but you'd estimate you've all been resting for, like, say, about 12, 13 hours. But you were taking like the last watch, Dunstan, but as it's sort of drawing to a close and Jackdaw, Big Mick, you start waking up, you're feeling rested, quite refreshed. You're all still in this room full of action, all of this like of these huge gears and cogs slowly turning in the ceiling. Awaking from their restful slumber, the companions take a look around, taking stock of their current situation and examining their surroundings in a little bit more detail. Okay, so as I say, you guys have all woken up now. You're still in this room full of vats of ink. You can see there appears to be like numerous sort of passageways, pretty much formed by these bookshelves, heading off in different directions. There's still no sign of the blue door that disappeared when it was slammed shut as you entered this strange place. Like I said, everything has a sort of an air of antiquity about it. Like if you look, there's like little black motes of dust drifting down through the air that catch the lamplight. There's no sign of whether it's day or night, and some of these books look like they might be new, some of them look very old. The bookshelves themselves look quite old, although they're well maintained.
Where is the light? The ambient light coming from? Are there some sort of?
You're not entirely sure, but there just appears to be like a sort of low level, like ambient light that pervades this area. It's low enough that like you'd have to like squint a bit, or if something gets a little bit further away from you, like it'd be difficult to see. But it's just enough so it doesn't count as like real darkness. I mean, if you've got a lantern that you've lit, you can see a lot further. Or as the friar found out, the lantern that was carried by this small creature shed its own light. But there is like a sort of low level of like ambient light that just seems to like pervade this place. You're not entirely sure where it's emanating from.
On the shelves. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, I'll glance around the group and try and establish what we've got in the way of light. Maybe you fellas got a lantern or something? It's a bit dingy in here.
No, I don't have anything. I wasn't expecting to be exploring a location like this.
Tell me about it. I know all about that.
The party takes stock of what they have in the way of lighting and find that they're quite ill-equipped, with only Jackdaw having a flint and steel. As they're discussing this, the friar tells them about the strange small creature that he's seen, and they are taken by surprise when a gentle wind wafts through the area they're in, carrying the scent of musty old paper and antiquity with it.
So, on the shelves themselves, John, are there any markings of like what's on them?
There's no actual markings on the shelves. However, you can look at the spines of the books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I say, all of the books in this area appear to do with like calligraphy, the art of like writing and illumination. There's also more factual treatises, like the best sort of inks to use for certain types of books, how you can blotch your ink successfully to prevent it from spoiling the rest of a manuscript, stuff like that. During their conversation, Big Mick casts his eyes appraisingly over the samples of ink from the vats that Friar Dunstan has taken, and asks whether he wrote down the identifying labels that were on each of the vats.
Oh,
Yeah, so the black one is mundane, the red one is scarification, the green one is permanence, the blue one is hidden from sun, and the
hidden from
last...
sun. Good.
Yeah.
And the last one?
Infernus.
Oh yeah, that's the screaming one. Right.
Yeah.
And indeed, as you've obviously you're sort of like looking at the inks and you're like inspecting them just to like check on them, Friar. As you're looking at the infernal ink, let's call it for want of a better phrase, as you're sort of like shaking that about and you're trying to peer into it, occasionally you see what appear to be like vague sort of suggestions of like screaming faces inside the ink, but every time you try and look at them to get more detail, they sort of like vanish back into the ink. It's just like an impression.
Very Edvard Munch.
Indeed. Jackdaw tells his companions that they should probably test some of the inks. Friar Dunstan points out that he has a small scar on his hand where it was splashed with the red ink. Jackdaw draws one of his daggers and takes hold of the vial of green permanence ink.
So I'll just like get some drops on it, and I'll take another knife, and I'll like take off my glove, roll back my sleeves. I'll get to like tattooing, like like fucking old school. Push the sharp thing with the ink into the skin and tattooing.
That'd be a tattoo, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you start doing this, you do notice like the green ink seems to take quite sort of finely to your skin. And the colour of the ink doesn't fade at all in like the way tattooing does. It remains this vibrant green. And as you're doing this, you notice that where the ink has touched your knife, well, both your knives, it's like stained the parts of the blades it's touched green. So even when the ink's gone, like those bits of the blades are stained green.
Yeah. So I'll write on my forearm, alive.
Yep.
I'll like. It takes me a bit because I need to like push it in, but I'll like write alive on it, and
do you need a hand with that, mate? I can give you a hand with that.
I'm actually this is one of the things that I'm pretty good at, actually.
Completing his tattoo, Jackdaw tries wiping his knife on the back of one of the vats, and realising that the green stain has not come off the blade, turns to his companions.
Look, my knife is green now. I think maybe this is the permanent part. Is it that it stains? It stays on a thing real good. I bet if I took it off the skin, I mean, that'll probably like take it off. But
as they're having this discussion, Mick, you can hear from down one of these passages, like I say, is made by these bookshelves. You can hear raised voices. There must be somewhere in the distance, but sort of coming from down this passageway. It sounds like a couple of like people arguing. You can't really make out what they're saying, but there's definitely like the harsh edge of anger to the voices. He points it out to the rest of his companions, and Jackdaw volunteers to go and have a look. As he heads off in that direction, Friar Dunstan leaves him with a bit of sobering advice.
Yeah.
But try not to kill anyone.
I'll try, and I'll get my knife.
Try hard.
With the advice of Friar Dunstan still ringing in his ears, Jackdaw slips into the shadows and begins making his way down the bookshelf-lined corridor towards the sound of raised voices. So, as you sort of like creep down this passageway made by these bookshelves, and you're quite surprised by what you see. You can see a number of very young men, like sort of two of them wearing sort of fairly plain, sort of like brown academics robes, and they appear to be talking to what appears to be a human skeleton that is stood upright. The skeleton has a mop over one shoulder, and it's sort of leaning there looking at them. You can hear one of the students' voice raised going, "Look, I don't care if you are cleaning this floor. We need to find a way back to the college. The masters will have our guts for garters if we don't get back there. I mean, I've got a project to complete." As you're sort of, they don't really appear to have noticed you, despite the bad roll, because they're like arguing with each other. You're even more surprised when the skeleton with the mop over its shoulder says, "Well, I'm sorry about that and all, but I can't really help you. I mean, I've got floors to mop and I've got shelves to clean. What do you want? I'm just the hired help."
Do these people sound like they're from Great London?
They do, yeah. Although they're obviously from like an upper crust sort of area.
Yeah, hoity-toity.
Indeed.
So I'll actually come back.
As they're sort of arguing, you see like the skeleton like just starts mopping like what he's talking to him. He's just got like an old floor mop, and he's just like. You actually can see the skeletons, although it shouldn't be possible for a skeleton to whistle, never mind talk, it's like whistling a happy tune while it's like, "Well, I'm very sorry, but I've got floors to clean. I can't be standing around here all day talking to university students." And
I'm like,
listen, not only are you a ridiculous automaton of some kind that's obviously been summoned by some sort of foul necromantic arts, but now you're impeding us getting back to the college. Where is this? And he carries on like ranting in that sort of fashion.
Yeah.
Silently, Jackdaw returns to his companions and tells them what he's seen, both about the strange, animated, skeletal janitor and the college students that were arguing with it.
So, I don't know that any of these people would be able to help us get what we want. The students seemed intent on returning where they came from, and very clueless on how to do so. So, I don't know that any of these would be of any help to us.
A decision is made that they should go and attempt to converse with the janitor and the two college students. Friar Dunstan suggests that Jackdaw remain close by as a figure of menace in case things turn a bit nasty. Meanwhile, Jackdaw explains again to Big Mick, who's been goofing off and not really paying attention, what exactly he saw.
Hey, students.
Well, all that stuff is news to me.
Skeleton what?
Skeleton mop wielding, what the?
Yeah, so TLDR, there is a room. There's two students from Great London, probably like the Grand Academy or whatever. Two students talking to a janitor skeleton who's mopping the floors and be like, "Can't help you, sorry. I need to clean these floors. Can't help you get back home." And they're like, "What is the meaning of this? I am entitled to go back home. You must help me, Mr. Bones."
And in fact, as you're doing your accurate sort of like reportrayal of one of these students, you hear the voice of the one that you heard talking previously in a loud voice, sort of full of wonder and quite missing the sort of like upper crust tone of presumption that he had previously. You hear it float down the corridor towards you. Goes, "Ye gods, this place seems to chart the movement of the very heavens themselves." Hearing this, the companions make their way down the corridor towards the new chamber. As you head in, you can see that it's a fairly wide open space, and as you look up, you can see there's a huge domed ceiling high above you, and there's what appear to be lanterns in the shapes of various constellations, some of which you recognise, some of which you don't. In the centre of this room is what looks like a large clockwork orrery, so like a depiction of the solar system. There's a lamp burning in the centre and long brass arms that hold model planets, moons and comets in place. The whole thing appears to be slowly turning, depicting the planets moving in their orbit, and as it turns there's like this of this clockwork mechanism moving. As they enter, the skeletal janitor appears to be cleaning graffiti off the far wall, tutting and muttering under his breath. Oh, bloody graffitiing everywhere, and I've got to come and clean it up. And he's like, going up and down with his mop and tutting under his breath. Well, if you're having a look at the graffiti, Big Mick, I'll tell you, you can see...
Yeah, I'll try and have a sneaky look, yeah.
Okay, you can see there appear to be like 3 sort of like distinct patches of graffiti. It looks as though there might once have been more, but obviously this skeleton has studiously cleaned some of it off. The first of the 3 says, some of it's been erased, but you think it says, this should be obvious, but don't trust the devils. They screwed me, and they'll screw you too. You look at the next one, it says, the ink is alive. It's everywhere, watching and waiting. Is civilization doomed? And there's like a scrawled question mark. And the final one says, this place is evil, it should be burned and destroyed. And they're all in different handwritings.
I'll nudge the friar. See, look at that friar, look at that devil stuff, look at that.
Yeah. Okay, so once you've read that, I'll call out to the 2 students and say, well met, what brings you to this location?
The student who was like looking up in awe at these lanterns hanging on the ceiling looks down and you see a look of relief come across his face, and he's like, oh, thank God. Jonathan, I told you there must be other people in here. He's like, oh, well met, Friar. I'm Rebus of the Grand College. You've no idea what a pleasure it is to bump into another civilized person in this godless place. Oh. Says, well, we've been wandering. How long have we been wandering around for, Jonathan? Oh, I don't know, Rebus. Could have been days. I've no idea. See, we don't even know how long we've been here for, and well, we've seen all manner of strange things as we've been wandering about. But you're the first normal people we've seen. And then you see him sort of like he spots Jackdaw, and he's like,
yeah, that's a bit of a stretch, my old son.
So tell me, how did you end up here?
He looks a little bit uncomfortable when you ask him that question. And he's like, at which point the other one, who we identified as Jonathan, just sort of nudges him and he said, Rebus, what have we got to lose? Just tell them. Well, look, I hate to admit this, but I've been doing a paper on some of the ancient pagan, pre-Goman texts that we have in the Grand Library. And when I found an ancient parchment in the Grand Library that seemed to suggest that there was a place that the ancient pagan shaman used to go to breathe in the wisdom of their ancestors. And I found it took me weeks and even months to piece it together, but eventually I worked out that they, in special places, they could make a blood sacrifice to gain access to this area. And I never thought it'd work, but being thorough and, like I say, wanting to complete my paper and wanting to get a distinction, I killed a small dog in one of the places it was indicated, and the next thing I knew, this door appeared, and when we went through it, and we found ourselves here. But before we could get back out again, the door slammed shut and disappeared. We've been stuck here ever since.
That seems like a poor reward for a dog that was probably very loyal.
Well, I've got to be honest. I purchased it off a trader. I didn't have any great attachment to it. Just as well. Well, you know, so sometimes these things have to be done for the sake of academic inquiry. I make no bones about that. But like I said, I didn't actually think the thing would just work. I was just trying to be thorough with my paper.
Okay.
If you don't mind me asking me, old mate, where did you get this inclination that killing this dog would open up this door exactly?
Well, it didn't. The ancient scrolls I found, and it took me some pains to decipher them, I'd tell you. Ancient Havenlander isn't an easy language to understand, but well, it suggested that a blood sacrifice was necessary. And after all, it wasn't like I was going to kill a person or anything. I mean, that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, that would.
It would.
Yeah, ridiculous. Oh, out of the question.
Well, quite. I mean, there's only for that sort of ridiculous behaviour. I mean, we're civilised people after all, but...
And is there a lot of this going on amongst the academic fraternity, as it were, if that's the right word?
Well, no, the study of ancient texts is a very specialised subject, and not everyone has the knowledge in languages, culture, etc., to be able to study that. I had to go to a number of different places and consult with experts on the matter. I even went as far as going to Stank Ward to talk to some of the people there about it. Now, obviously, Mick, you're like well travelled. You're a bit of a sort of lad about town. There isn't anywhere called Stank Ward in Great London.
Is there not? All right. Okay, so that would be immediately obvious to me then.
Yep. You've never heard.
Okay.
You know, like you at least know the names of like every district in like Great London, even if you've not been to them. And you've never heard of anywhere called Stank Ward.
Oh, right. Well, that's a bit funny, because can't say as I've ever heard of this Stank Ward. That's not from round these parts, me old mucker.
It says, what do you mean you've not heard of Stank Ward? It's right next to Brothen Ward and Tomegate. But between them and Marketgate.
Nah.
Oh, you mean Bile Ward?
What?
Do you have goblins?
Well, yeah, there's some goblins about in Great London. Why? I mean, they're pests, to be honest, but
they don't live in the Stank Ward, do they?
No, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a bit of a shitty rundown district, but there's no more goblins there than there is anywhere else.
If I don't mind asking you, what sort of a year would you say you'd been headed in here?
As the students are discussing this with the group, they mention that as far as they're concerned, the current reigning monarch is King Oculon III, at which point Big Mick tells them that he thinks they might have been in here a bit longer than they think.
We ain't got no King Oculon.
Yeah, it's the
Just
mad
now.
Queen Elspeth now.
Correct. He said.
He looks a bit puzzled. He's like, I've never heard of her.
Yeah. I
Because
think
there's
you've...
probably like centuries, like literally hundreds
Well, that's a
of years.
worst case scenario. That's a worst case. Trust you to come up with a worst case scenario.
No, I mean if they don't live, if the goblins, because I talk to the goblins because I get the mushrooms, but if the goblins don't live in the Stank Ward, then whoever his name was or whatever, how that works with the goblins, but the goblin who saved the king hasn't saved the king yet, and the goblins haven't lived in Stank Ward yet as a result of that heroic act.
Oh, you've been paying attention to your history.
Because I don't know if I went to school, but
The student Rebus is like, a goblin saving the king? Preposterous. I've never heard such rot in all my life. Whilst his companions are questioning Rebus and Jonathan, the two students, Friar Dunstan approaches the skeleton, who is busy still mopping the graffiti off the walls of this chamber.
So I'll just approach the skeleton and say, excuse me, I'm looking for books on plagues and disease, and I'm wondering if you could point me in the direction that those books might be.
He doesn't stop mopping the wall, but he says, oh yes, there's a large section on diseases and agues of all kinds, much deeper into the library, near the centre of it. That's where all the more important books are kept. Obviously, the librarians keep a tight watch on them. Make sure that no one steals them or anything like that. And those who do, and he sort of goes. So that tilts his head a bit.
Is he tilting his head at the graffiti?
No, he just sort of tilts his head to one side.
Okay.
And he says, Well, let's put it this way, and it's got quite a sort of almost like well-educated sounding voice, bizarrely enough, and he's mopping away as he's talking, and he says, well, put it this way, unless you fancy a career carrying lanterns around to light the library for the rest of the eternity, I wouldn't advise stealing anything if I was you.
Right.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, Fry. Ask him how do you know a librarian when you meet one? I wouldn't know one from me. I wouldn't know one from me. I wouldn't know a librarian from I don't know what, a bookshelf.
So I asked the skeleton what the librarians were and how we would know how we would know them.
He says, well, you'll easily recognise the librarians by the robes they wear. There's 5 different orders of librarian within the library. There's the Red Order, or the Scarlet Order if you prefer. That's a slightly more archaic term. They maintain the library's infrastructure, the building, etc. They oversee. They'll be coming round to inspect my work at some point, I've no doubt, and they tell us what me and the rest of the crew where to go, where to sweep, etc. Then there's the Yellow Order. They maintain the books themselves, making sure the pages are all fine, and moisture hasn't got to them, and that sort of thing. There's the Black Order, who they maintain doorways into and out of the library. There's and he looks. It's strange. Obviously he's got no facial expressions because he's a skeleton, but you get a feeling that he feels a little bit uncomfortable as he discusses the next one. He says, and then there's
he's going to point us to the sexy librarian. Yay!
He says, then there's the Grey Order, and they're the let me put it this way. I can tell by your garb that you're a religious man, sir. If you don't mind me asking a presumptuous question, if I presume you believe in the soul or the spirit or something along those lines.
I do.
Now, and I don't mean any offence by this. If you were to die in the normal course of events, what do you believe happens to your soul or your spirit, whatever you want to call it?
It would go to the Lord.
Right. Okay. Well, let me put it this way. That may be what happens in the normal course of events where you're from. However, you're not in the place where you're from. This place is cut off from the heavens, the afterlife, whatever you believe it to be. So if you die in here, well, your soul or your spirit or whatever, well, it's got nowhere to go, and it just sort of hangs around a bit like these books, and like if you leave one of these books in a damp room, it'll just hang around for a bit, and eventually it'll start to go mouldy, the pages will start crumbling, and that'd be sort of what had happened to your soul, sir. So the librarians, they need someone to just sort of move these souls along and sort of shepherd them out of the way to make sure they're not cluttering up the place. And well, that's what the Grey Order do. And then finally we've got the White Order, and they're the ones who tend to the great calculations at the centre of the library. So you can tell them all by the different colours robes they wear.
The great calculations.
Yes, that's right. I've never seen it myself, but I'm led to believe that at the heart of the library there's this great mechanism of sorts that's always sort of working and turning, trying to work out the answer to some sort of great question or great puzzle. And the White Order, they tend that, they read the results from it, they keep it ticking over, and presumably they'll be the ones to examine the results when it eventually arrives at them.
Okay. And you mentioned these poor creatures who carry the lights.
Oh, the lantern bearers, yes.
Lantern bearers. So can you tell me what other sins one might commit?
Well, it's not so much the Order who do that. It seems to be more a function of the library. It's almost though the library defends itself from those who try and steal from it. Now, everyone who's in here is free to wander around, to look at the books, to move them around in this library as they see fit. I've never seen any harm come to anyone from doing that. However, I have heard that if people try and take books... Now, I know you can copy writings, and you can take your copies away with you. That's fine. However, I believe removing the books from the library or trying to damage them or the structure of the library is forbidden. But like I say, I'm just one of the work crew. I mean, I know what I've heard. I've never seen it happen directly.
Okay.
You missed a bit.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Does it actually like on the
Yeah.
on the thing? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, because that'd work, wouldn't it? Super effective, that skeleton breath. No lungs.
Well, to be fair, he's got enough breath to be talking to you, so...
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Okay. And one last question before you go back to work.
He's never stopped working, but he's like, well, I can't stop working, sir, but I'm quite happy to chat to people while I'm doing my work.
Serve it
I'm
as-
looking for parchment. Do you know where we might find parchment to copy a book?
He says, well, yes, I can find you some parchment. Hold on a second. And he sort of goes over and he's like dusting one of the shelves, and he peers on it, and he pulls down a roll of parchment with like a thin white ribbon around it, and he's like, oh, there you go. And he passes it over to you, and he then immediately carries on with his cleaning.
Okay.
As he's doing that, you hear, like, from behind you, you hear this. And as you look behind you, see, like, some of the bookshelves moving, and they block off the way that you've just come through.
Bleeding hellfire. Look, the bleeding place is moving.
After their conversation with the janitor, the group and the two students experiment with manually moving the orrery. And the student Rebus says that it should be possible to chart the movement of the planets and celestial bodies using it. Big Mick has been lost in thought while they're doing this, and he suddenly mentions an idea that has crossed his mind, given what they've just seen.
So I'm wondering if we could, like, if we messed about with this, I wonder if it would, like, affect real time. I wonder if we could, like, dial it back to before the beginning of the plague. Whether it affects...
And that seems like the kind of thing that even if you could do it, I don't know that you should necessarily.
Well, Big Mick is confused by all of the mention of planets, solar systems and constellations. The exasperated Rebus explains to him that there is a theory at the highest levels of academia that the world they inhabit is just one of many floating in a dark void around a burning hot sun. He indicates this by pointing at the moon on the orrery, although Big Mick doesn't seem entirely convinced.
You're coming out with, but you reckon we're on that ball there?
Well, that's right. As you're saying this, the other man, Jonathan, sort of looks forward and he says, "Don't suppose you know little Frankie, do you?"
Little Frankie?
Yeah.
What, from up Slaughter Ward?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Young lad, cheeky little rascal. He's a little butcher's boy, isn't he? You've got a bit of a look of him about you.
He ain't so young, little Frankie. He ain't so young, mate.
Oh,
that's old. Nah, that's old Frankie. You're on about old Frankie.
He says what? Little Frankie Butcher?
Frankie Butcher? Old Frankie Butcher, my old man?
He says, nah, couldn't be. He's only about, what, 10?
Nah, mate, he's like 60.
So I bought a chop off him just the other week. He like come round on his rounds with his little basket and delivered it out.
Nah. Now let's see. I don't want to break it to you. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, lads, but some weird, mischievous, sorcery nonsense has been going on here, and I think you've been here a good deal longer than you think. Yeah, this is a sorry state of affairs. This don't bode well at all, lads. These fellas they've been in here for years.
The two students, relieved to meet normal people, agree to travel with the group, hoping that perhaps they can all find a way out of this strange place. Jonathan points down a corridor and tells them about where they've just come from. Well, that's the direction we came in. It's some sort of auditorium of some kind. There's no bookshelves in there. It's just a big empty space. There's a little stage in there, a desk, a blackboard. It looks like one of the old professors' rooms back at the college. And there's seats in like a semicircle around it, almost like a lecture hall, if you will. Moving down the corridor, the group enters the auditorium and see that it is much as Jonathan described. The room is lit by strange, hissing, bright lamps on the walls. Friar Dunstan moves across the room to examine them more closely. As you head towards the wall, you can see that a number of them have what appear to be iron lamps bolted into the wall. They have pipes coming out of them, heading into the wall, and as you sort of get nearer to these lamps, you can hear this faint sound, and you see the flame appears to flicker in these lanterns, and there's an ever so slightly acrid smell as you get nearer to it, but the light is much brighter than the gloom bug or oil lanterns you've seen previously.
Okay. Can I approach the stage and see what, if anything, is written there?
You most certainly can. As you head towards the blackboard, you can see there's a little shelf sort of built into the bottom of it. There's a board eraser, a blackboard eraser on it, and a few sticks of white chalk. It appears as though someone was in the middle of a lecture, and there's what looks to be a diagram of a dissected pig drawn on the blackboard with lines going to each part of it, sort of labelling the various parts of the animal.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I recognise all that stuff.
Indeed you do. Although, given that all the names are sort of the Latin, official names, it's not chop and whatever. Yeah,
they got all that wrong.
But yeah, you do recognise the parts that
I got the rough gist of it, but they need to make a few corrections here and there. Clearly, bit too much mumbo jumbo on that old diagram there is.
Big Mick takes the board rubber and begins to correct some of the scientific names on the diagram of the dissected pig, writing in the more common terms chop, sirloin, etc. Whilst he's doing this, unobserved by everybody, a pile of the chalk dust that's in the air begins to slowly coalesce into a vaguely humanoid form. It extrudes a white, dusty appendage that begins reaching out for the back of Big Mick's neck. But as it moves, it displaces some of the air, and the ever-alert Jackdaw spots it. And it's just sort of there, reaching towards the back of his neck, and that's when it displaces the air a bit, and you suddenly you've been paying attention to something else, and you suddenly turn around and oh fuck.
So it definitely looks like it's gonna throttle him, or
It's certainly reaching out towards him in a menacing fashion.
Yeah.
And in fact, at this point, I'm going to ask everyone to roll initiative.
Oh.
As the chalk dust monstrosity reaches out towards Mick's neck menacingly, Jackdaw, ready for action, draws one of his knives and springs towards it.
Save me, Jackdaw, save me.
Okay, so it's not the optimal thing, and it will do very little, but I guess Jackdaw's reflex would just be throw a knife at the thing.
Okay.
Ideally, I would get a proper weapon, which I also have, but I think in this instance, it's going to be the first thing is going to be oh shit, and then just throw a knife.
Jackdaw's knife sails through the creature without appearing to do it any harm. Friar Dunstan also tries to assault it with his club, but likewise he doesn't seem to be able to do any damage to this amorphous, dust-like creature. Thinking quickly, Lieutenant Ovington shouts that this thing obviously can't be damaged by normal weapons, holds out his hand to the friar and asks for the bottle of infernal ink. Receiving it, he pops the cork off and prepares to throw it at the dust creature.
Oh, for fuck.
Okay, so as he sort of steps forward, ready to throw this vial out to this creature, the lieutenant stumbles over like a slightly raised floorboard and actually like spills the ink all over himself.
No.
Immediately, he's surrounded. The ink appears to like break up into like a mist, which is full of these screaming phantasms that begin to like spiral around the lieutenant. These like screaming shades of the damned that fill this room with a cacophonous din like souls in torment. And you see the lieutenant sort of like going like that as he's like engulfed by this cloud of like screaming souls, trying to sort of like fend them off, like waving his sword about.
That didn't go so well.
Okay, Big Mick, you're up to the plate. The lieutenant's distracted. Normal weapons don't seem to have injured this dust cloud. It's reaching out this amorphous, dusty hand towards you. Obviously, the infernal ink is now spent because it's all over the lieutenant.
Yeah. I think I'll, like, duck down. Sort of spin around. Lob the blackboard eraser at it and dash to one side.
Okay, the blackboard eraser goes through it, unsurprisingly, and you duck to one side, which will make it a bit more difficult for it to hit you, as it's reaching out this amorphous hand towards you.
Yeah.
Mick dodges the outstretched arm of the dust creature, and instead it smashes its limb into one of the auditorium chairs. Immediately the chair crumbles to dust as though afflicted by advanced age. Ducking and diving out of the way, Mick screams,
Run away! Leg it, lads! This is bad. Get out of it! Run for your lives!
The two students don't take any persuading, they just like take off down, like they don't even go down the same passageway, they just both run. Friar Dunstan heroically hurls some vials of holy water at the advancing dust creature. Although they don't seem to damage it, they do drive it back, allowing him and his fellows time to follow Rebus down one of the passageway. The creature pursues them a little way, but seems unable to pass too far away from the chalkboard that spawned it. They arrive at what appears to be a huge iron portcullis, barring the way into a chamber that looks very much like a museum exhibit, containing numerous glass tanks with assembled skeletons inside them. At the far end of the room is a desk with a pile of scrolls on it. After much grunting and heaving, they're able to lift the portcullis, assisted by Rebus, and Mick wedges it open with his crowbar. They all slide under the portcullis and enter this strange new chamber. After looking at the skeletons for a few moments, Jackdaw, conscious that perhaps these things might be dangerous, keeps half an eye on them as he moves towards the table and starts to peruse the scrolls. Yeah, that is absolutely fine. Now, as you're looking at these scrolls, you can see it's very immaculately calligraphy. You know, you break the seal off, you open it, you start looking at it. You can see that it appears to be written in Latin. Does your character speak Latin?
I do not know what languages I speak.
In which case, roll me a d6.
That's a 4.
You don't speak Latin.
Cool. Well, we know that I speak Gaulish, so that's one thing. But okay, so
don't forget to make a note of what languages you do and do
yeah,
not speak.
I'll put them in the somewhere. Yeah, so I'll put that aside. Next one, open.
Okay.
Just like to check if everything is in Latin.
Okay, you open it. Roll me a d6.
That's a 4.
Yeah, that's in Latin.
Righto. Is there a whole stack of these?
There's 5 of them in all.
Okay, I'm gonna go through as many of them as I can.
Okay, in which case, just roll me one more d6.
Yeah. That's a 1.
Okay. 4 of the scrolls are written in Latin. One, however, is written in the common tongue. And as you're looking at it, you can see that it appears to be, it's almost like a sort of prayer or a psalm that's been written down on a scroll, like say in the common tongue of the Havenlands. And it appears to be a prayer asking for the gods to reveal any toxins or poisonous maledictions that may afflict the faithful Friar Dunstan, who understands Latin, moves to look at the other scrolls. He finds that they are clerical prayer scrolls of command, protection from evil, invisibility to undead, and resist elements fire. He believes the one that Jackdaw has been reading in the common tongue is a detect poison scroll. After pocketing these, the friar looks at the skeletons, seeing that one of the exhibits appears to be a number of ophidian or snake-like skeletons posed in a manner as though they were rearing up, ready to strike. He keeps a wary eye on them in case they animate, given that they've already met an animated janitor earlier, but after several minutes they don't appear to pose any threat, and he moves on to look at the other exhibitions. Again, they're not particularly doing anything, they just appear to be arranged like an exhibition. As you look around, you can see what appears to be a child's skeleton. You can also see what appears to be some sort of large like monkey or ape skeleton. Again, they're all sort of posed as they would be if they were like alive and just sort of standing naturally.
Are there any labels or anything, John? Any?
Yeah. As you look at as you look across at the ape one, you can see it says giant albino ape. As you look at the one with the snakes, and it says Ophidius. As you look at the one with the child in, it says street urchin from Scalehithe. Jackdaw moves to have a look at the unassembled bones that are littered across the table.
Bones on the table.
Indeed.
Human? Animal?
Okay, the bones on the table appear to be... Well, it's odd. They look like they're human bones, but they're like far too big. Like they look like I mean, you know what human bones look like. Mm-hmm. They look similar in form, but they're like twice the size. And there's only like a few of them. Like there's like a thigh bone, an arm bone. Like I said, they're like twice the size of like a normal like adult male skeleton. Yeah. Jackdaw takes the large thigh bone to use as a club.
No, that'd be from like a giant, man. That's some sort of giant geezer. Where would they get that?
Well, this is worrying and also pretty interesting. So I'm going to keep this. And I'll tuck it into like my
Ain't you going to upset the? Ain't you going to upset the gaffer here, or
what? Like you did with the chalkboard?
Well, I was just writing on it. I was putting it right. I was being about as academic as I've ever been, if I'm honest.
And the result is that the chalk tried to kill you. So I guess.
Well, I didn't expect the chalk to try and kill me. I mean, that was all a little bit out of order, really, wasn't it? Under normal circumstances, if I'd have been feeling on form, I'd have given him a slap.
I think it's fair to say that the world of academia is not for you.
As you're like lifting this bone up, you realise, Jackdaw, that it's actually rested atop a book that was just sort of like on the desk.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing. So I was like, "Well, what? Oh,
yeah." There's just like a small book underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like there's a tiny little like bottle next to it which appears to have ink in it.
Does it say anything on the book cover?
The book cover says, "A treatise to the guide of post-mortem symbolism in art." Deciding they're probably better off leaving the book where it is, Jackdaw picks up the vial of ink, and it becomes obvious as he's discussing it with the rest of his companions that Lieutenant Uffington seems unable to see the ink, even when it's being waved in his face. He can perceive neither the bottle nor the ink inside it.
Mick, what's in my hand? And I'll like hold my hand out like this.
And
with the vial on top.
Yeah, Mick, you look at Jackdaw's hand. He's got like a little vial of ink on it.
Yeah, you got a little vial of ink on your hand there, mate. I mean, I don't know what the problem is.
Lieutenant, I don't know if the place is getting to you, but I think there might be something here. Does he have anything on him from like the action in the previous?
No, he seems okay. No. He looks a bit shaken, but he's like collected himself. He's like resuming his old mannerisms, his old like soldierly sort of mannerisms.
It's mighty strange because I have and I'll like get rid of the book and like bring up a knife and I'll like tink on the, because is it glass? Is it glass? I'm just gonna like tink on it with the blade.
He looks at you and says, "Careful, man! You'll cut your hand poking at it with a knife like that."
I'll look at Mick and then the friar, and it's like, I don't quite know what is going on.
Can I see it?
Yep.
Okay. Can I cast Detect Magic and see if it glows magical, and if the lieutenant glows magical as well?
Okay, the lieutenant, you cast Detect Magic. The lieutenant is not glowing magically. The ink, however, is definitely magical.
Okay. Is there anything else in the room that's magical since we're here?
Not as far as you can see.
Okay.
Okay, so Lieutenant, you'll just have to trust me. I'll make a drawing or something of it later, but I have a while.
Okay.
So something's happened to the old lieutenant.
But we also know the ink is magical, right? So it might not be the lieutenant.
The companions decide to push on and venture deeper into the library, choosing the corridor on the left and following the bookshelves along to the next chamber. As you head down the left-hand corridor, the bookshelves start to become more prevalent along the walls again. However, as you continue moving amongst the bookshelves, you see what appears to be a large stone sarcophagus. A sort of rectangular block of stone. It's got fanciful scroll work and sort of like Rococo carvings all over it. The top has an inscription which says, "Here lies Sir Isaac."
Does that ring any bells? Like, do we know of a Lord Isaac?
You can make me an intelligence roll if you wish.
I will do so. Oh shit! Is it me?
Well, do you know what? I'm actually going to turn this over to you. Who is Sir Isaac, and what do you know about him?
Oh man. So this is an extra dimensional planar library.
Indeed.
Which is on some level still tied to our realm. Oof. I guess like Sir, Lord Isaac would have been like one of the. I guess like Lord, this is the founder, like the great patriarch of the academy, like from way back when they first like struck ground with their shovels. Sir Isaac was there, like laying the first brick.
So when you say academy, do you mean like the Grand College? Or
Yeah,
do you mean...
yeah. The great colleges of Great London. So he was like the first headmaster, or the equivalent.
Okay, yeah. So you know him to be the founder of the Grand College, and you can see that the carvings on top depict a stately-looking man with his arms across his chest, as though in repose. He's carved wearing sort of almost like archaic-looking plate armour, although it's obviously a carving, it's not armour itself. Actually, like long carved ringlets of hair hanging down over his shoulders, and there's a carved like helmet placed near his head to give very much the impression that he's just resting on this stone slab.
Yeah. I will sort of like when Jackdaw sees this thing and like it clicks in his mind what it is, he just sort of like spews it out without thinking. It's like, oh, it's Lord Isaac from such and such year when they were first establishing the colleges in what was probably not called Great London back then, even maybe something else. And he's just like rattling off like random information about this thing, and it's sort of like, oh, like when he finishes, it's kind of like shakes out of it. Like, oh, I don't know why I'm aware of this, but it's an interesting place to find this.
You don't know why you're aware of a lot of stuff, though, really, do you? Having come out of the river.
No, I don't at all.
One thing that does strike you is as you're actually looking at and you're examining this carving in more detail, as following Jackdaw's pronouncement, is there is a little bit of a similarity between the appearance of the guy and Jackdaw himself.
I'm wondering if there might be a Gaulish link there as well. Is he perhaps got a bit of a Gaulish name or anything like that? I mean, he's Isaac, you know.
I'll probably have some like random tidbits of the fact that because the Gomans came here in antiquity, right?
Indeed.
They would have had to go through Gaul first to get here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they definitely, if the Gauls weren't already here, they definitely brought them over here.
Yeah, I mean,
either as like, servants or slaves. So.
You would know that it's almost a little bit ironic, like the sort of hatred and suspicion that like Great Londoners and Havenlanders in general have for the Gaulish people, because given like the sort of successive waves of like immigration, there's an awful lot of people in the Havenlands who have like at least a bit of Gaulish heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the likes of the Gomans and that were, or their facsimile, would have recruited auxiliaries from the populations that they moved through.
Quite right. They would have had like Gaulish mercenaries and, like say, Gaulish recruits. And when the Gomans, by and large, withdrew from the Havenlands, a lot of their auxiliaries, a few Gomans themselves, stayed behind. You know, they married into the local populace. They became part of like the rich tapestry of different peoples that make up the Havenlands today. Mick points out the physical similarities between the carved reclining figure of Sir Isaac and his companion Jackdaw.
Yeah, hey, Jackdaw, I ain't being funny, mate, but this geezer here, he don't half look he's a ringer for you, son. I tell you what.
What? No, like,
Yeah.
he looks back just genuinely like confused, like what?
Yeah, man, here he looks. You look just like him. You know what I mean? You got the same old boat race, hooter. You know.
Looking at the various papers and written materials that cover the shelves around the sarcophagus, Jackdaw eventually finds what appears to be the original plans for the building of the Grand College in Great London. He takes the scroll containing the plans, planning to copy them later before they leave the library. No problems. As you're doing this, from further down one of the corridors heading out of this room, you hear a sound that's a bit like...
I guess we'll do the equivalent of in this world.
Okay. As you sort of like look down the passageway, backing towards you, like but facing away from you, you can see what appears to be a humanoid figure. However, where you'd expect the head of a normal humanoid to be, it has this almost like octopus-like sort of tentacled head with this sort of strange, like slimy, like purplish green skin on it. You can see it's backing towards you, and it's going with sort of like three-fingered hands. It's batting at the air, and there's what looks to be a crowd of 4 books, but like the books are like flapping around it, sort of like weaving in towards this figure, and it's going like trying to bat these books away.
Jackdaw is just gonna look and stare.
Yeah,
at
I
this.
think I'm just standing there like speechless, just thinking, what the hell is going on?
As you watch, sorry, Fry, go ahead.
I was going to say the friar will step forward and say to this creature, "Do you need assistance?"
It sort of glances around you, and it's got these sort of like golden pupilless eyes. And as it looks at you, in your head, not out loud, but you all hear it, but it's almost as though it's like it's in your own voice, like it's your own thoughts. You hear this word say,
"These books keep attacking me. I can't get rid of them. Assist me."
I look around to see if everybody else has heard the same thing. Like, what?
As you're sort of glancing around, Mick, one of these books effectively like dive bombs to this creature and it sort of swoops past it. As it does, you see one of its pages go like and score like a shallow paper cut across this thing's slimy octopus-like face. And in your head, you all hear like a "Arr!" But again, it's like in your own voice, like you're thinking it.
Yeah. I think the probably the lieutenant would take a dim view of that.
Okay, what are you suggesting the lieutenant's going to do?
I think he might get into like a defensive stance and draw out his long sword, maybe advance a little bit, ready to like strike down one of these books or something if it keeps kind of if it keeps carrying on with this like harassing kind of behaviour.
Lieutenant Huffington draws his sword and prepares to defend his friends against these aggressive works of literature. As he's doing this, Big Mick is looking at the strange octopoid-like creature and spots a conspicuous bump below its robes. He shouts out to the creature and asks if it's done anything to offend those who run the library. He asks it whether it's stolen anything.
I'm just taking what was not the librarians to take in the first place.
Oh. Right, you are. Well, I think that might be your problem.
Again, in your head, you hear this voice say,
I refuse to deliver my prize to those.
I've been called worse.
I will not surrender my prize to those who take what does not belong to them.
Oh, right.
and he continues like batting at these books. As one swoops in, he like clocks it with one of these like 3 clawed hands, and like basically like cleaves the book in half, and it drops to the ground.
If possible, I will slide up next to Big Mick and aggressively whisper to him that if we get rid of this, whatever this is, the place and the librarians will probably look favorably upon us. So he's breaking the books, so we know he's already lost any standing he might have had, but we might gain more if we do away with him.
Well, yeah, we might. True enough. That whoever it was said. Who was it who told us that you couldn't upset the librarians? Oh,
the janitor.
The janitor.
Oh yeah. The janitor.
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones. But old Boney, he said you didn't want to upset the librarians. So, tell you what, you might be onto something there, Jackdaw.
Incredibly strange. This place.
So I guess Friar Dunstan would be trying to talk the creature into putting the book back, and that it probably wasn't worth his life.
Okay, as you say that again, all in your own heads, the creature says,
I don't have a book.
What did you take then?
As it with one hand as it's trying to fend off this book, with the other it reaches under its robe and it pulls out what looks to be a glass cylinder, and inside the cylinder is what looks to be like a small sort of spiral of mist.
It's the creature's DNA.
What is that?
Do elaborate.
It's deoxyribose nucleic acid.
It says,
It's one of the people who met their ends in this place.
or what's left of them.
Wow.
Conjecturing that the mist in a jar may be a human soul, Friar Dunstan shouts out to the creature, asking him what he's going to do to it, and they all receive a mental impression of this octopoid creature cracking open the glass cylinder and devouring the mist within. Shaken by this, Friar Dunstan and his companions draw weapons and prepare to attack the strange octopoid creature.
Oh, that's nasty!
Huffing people? No.
Friar Dunstan moves towards the strange creature, his club held high above his head. So you move in with your club and you do strike it. However, it's strange. It's almost as though the creature doesn't have any sort of like skeletal structure, and that you feel like a soft, almost like spongy feeling as you hit it. You're not sure whether you've done it any damage or not. Jackdaw has been studying the creature intently as it's been moving, and as it finishes off the final one of the books that is menacing it, he moves in, lifting his bearded axe, thinking that he's located a weakness on the creature, and prepares to take a swing.
Yeah, and I'll try and distract him if I can at the same time with Liz, like, pulling at the thing and telling him how out of order he is and all that.
So he's swinging the axe, and you're like, leave it! Ah!
You're bang out of order!
You blackguard!
The group attack the sinister humanoid, scoring several deep wounds on it. Purple ichor flows out of its slimy skin over the floor and drenching Lieutenant Uffington, who stabs at it frantically with its sword. The creature reels back, its movements becoming slow and uncoordinated, turning to face its assailants.
Yeah.
As it's sort of doing that, it turns around. You see these octopoid like tentacles that are in the place of its mouth ripple, and then all of your minds are filled with this horrendous, it sounds like incredibly loud, so loud that like you fear your eardrums might burst, just this incredibly loud, like high-pitched screeching in your heads. And I'm going to ask, can each of you please make me an intelligence check? All of the people present, with the exception of Jackdaw, fall to the ground, their hands clamped over their bleeding ears, and they are swiftly rendered unconscious by the screeching of the sinister humanoid. It staggers forward despite its injuries and crouches low over Big Mick, its tentacles twitching in anticipation.
Presumably it lets go of my bearded axe. So we're going to go for a big overhead chop.
Go for it.
Into the midsection. I do not recall the rules for the sneak attack, but I'm gonna presume it doesn't apply anymore because we're well into the fisticuffs now.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, here we go. Bearded axe, number 1. No, it's just shit tonight, apparently.
Okay, you swing at it, but as it's sort of ducking down over Big Mick, your axe sails through the air. Mm-hmm. On its next turn, you watch as one of its tentacles slithers out, and it appears to like sort of almost like attached to the side of like Big Mick's head, so like snaking into one of his ears.
Mm-hmm.
Back to you.
This is some D&D movie stuff.
Pretty much.
With the tentacles in the ears. Okay. Was there... I thought I almost saw in... Maybe it wasn't the like combat summary thing. Can I, like, if I go behind this creature out of visual range, can I get extra stuff? I forget entirely.
I can't remember the exact rules, but I'll give you a +2.
Yeah. It was thereabouts, if it existed at all.
Yeah, it was something similar to that.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna... I'm just, like... basically using, because I miss, probably because it's being jerky and doesn't have bone structure, so I understand anatomy pretty good because I can murder people, but it doesn't work that way. So I don't know the rules, so I keep missing, and I just use the force to just bring it around for another go.
Yeah, it's crouched over Big Mick, it's got one of its tentacles in his ear, you lift your axe up into the air.
Yeah, I just windmill the axe back up and just like... damn it! And another swing. Come on, man. Oh, there we go.
Get that thing out my ear.
Roll your damage.
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be my quote of the session. Get that thing out of my ear.
How about 8?
Okay.
8 damage.
Okay, this thing's looking like you like sever one of its arms, but it's still moving. Jackdaw continues to swing his axe at the creature, but is unable to land a telling blow, perhaps due to its lack of bone structure or the fact that it appears to be made up of purely muscle and strange gelatinous slime. The creature, seemingly ignoring what he's doing, attaches further tentacles into Big Mick's other ear and his nostrils. It begins to emit a strange sound and begins sucking the very brains out of the insensate Mick, whose body begins to jerk spasmodically. Is because basically you've got like another 2 rounds before it does something very unfortunate to Big Mick. So what I'm going to say is you've effectively got 2 chances on like strength rolls to like. Are you like trying to saw the tentacle off? Or?
Yeah, basically like hold on to Mick's head because the tentacles are there, and then just like use the axe blade to like saw through the tentacles.
Okay, make me a strength roll.
Here we go.
You've got
This
2
is going to be
chances.
bad. I'm going to
do
change
this,
tactics if this isn't.
I'm going to get that burning wheel and shove it right where the sun don't shine, mate.
Here we go. 14?
Okay, you start sawing at it. Another tentacle like up his other nostril. You hear this like in your head. You hear this like, and then you notice it's weird. It's as though the skin on like Big Mick's head starts like getting like drawn tighter around his skull.
Yeah, that's the soul going away. Oh man,
It's got all 4 tentacles attacking.
I swear.
my rolls are incredible. Just incredible. Well, I conclude that I'm not going to be able to saw through these things quickly enough, so I'm going to resort again to decapitation, as you do.
Okay.
So, back up, overhead swing with the axe. It's all I can do, really. Here we go, bearded axe. Come on, man. No, it's just, it's just not happening today, man. It's
Okay.
these rolls.
Okay, Big Mick, you take 2 hit points of damage as your brains are slowly being slurped out by this creature.
That ain't going to take long.
Jesus, you were lucky there.
Okay, next round.
Oh man, please.
Literally, you know, like how if you get when someone like vacuum packs something and it goes,
Yeah.
Yep.
as all that's like what's happening to like Big Mick's head at the moment. As like the
Yeah.
brain's being sucked out, his head's slowly going.
Yep. So, I would like to decapitate this thing, please. So, here we go with the axe. It has to happen someday. Oh, maybe it's today.
Roll your damage.
Maybe it is today. Oh, it could very well be today.
Okay, you hack its head off. It takes about 5 minutes for the rest of everyone to recover. Big Mick, you've got like an absolute like the hangover headache from hell, and as you slowly start recovering, like from the front of your face, like by the tentacles that are in your ears and your nostrils, the head of this thing is just like hanging below your chin, like with the tentacles still like stuck into your nose and your ears, as you sort of slowly like start like recovering from this like mental blast that it did on you. Still recovering himself from the mental blast that the creature issued forth, Fry Dunstan walks over to Big Mick and attempts to pull the severed head of this creature free from his companion.
And
There's like a
um,
as you pull these tentacles out.
and then I guess I'll try and help him kind of bind his wounds and see if there's anything I can do to assist him.
Tired from his exertions of almost single-handedly taking down this octopus-like creature, Jackdaw slumps against the stone sarcophagus behind him, breathing heavily as he does so.
I'll go over to old Jackdaw, tap him on the back.
Okay,
Well
so
done, old son. Well done.
you're sort of congratulating Jackdaw as he like slumps against the sarcophagus. As you do, like the lid of the sarcophagus goes like and drops off the other side.
Oh, crap.
Jack does like, merde.
What did you do?
What did he say?
he's cursing in Gaulish.
So the friar will have a look into the sarcophagus to see what's there.
Okay, as you peer inside, you can see what appear to be the skeletal remains of a male human, presumably of Sir Isaac. The remains, they appear to be wearing what appears to be a sort of a leather jerkin, not like armour, but like a sort of like surcoat. But despite the fact all the bones have obviously been here for some time, this coat appears to be like in immaculate condition. A slightly more concerning thing than the coat is the arms of like the skeleton are like crossed on its chest, and it appears to be holding a glass jar, almost like a bell jar, with a dull amber material in it, and there's something floating in the amber material. You can see like a dark shape in this murky fluid.
Is it like that spirally thing or not?
No, it looks like a sort of solid mass, but you can't really tell exactly what it is because, like I said, this fluid's quite dark and murky that it's contained in.
Is the glass jar sealed?
It's not got like a wax seal, but it's got like a glass stopper on the top of it.
Okay. And if I pick it up and examine it really closely, can I make out what the dark shape is?
Yeah, you sort of turn it round so that the liquid sort of sloshes around a bit. It appears to be some sort of a fetus inside the jar. But the fetus appears to have like sort of two small horns on its forehead.
Oof.
It appears to have effectively been sort of like preserved or like pickled in this whatever this liquid is.
The graffiti said something about devils, didn't it? The devils will get you, or the devil don't trust the devils, or something.
Yeah.
So if I open the jar and smell it, what does it smell like?
It smells like natron and other preservative spices. It's
Okay.
you think you're pretty much sure now that it's like a preservative solution. Obviously, this mutated fetus inside is like long dead, but it's been like pickled inside this solution.
Okay. And would I have any idea why such a creature would ever be pickled?
I mean, you know for a fact that there is a sort of penchant for examining things like this, particularly in the medical colleges, in some of the upmarket wards. You're pretty sure, like a specimen like this, you could probably get like a couple of hundred like silver pieces for it, easy, if you like took it to like one of the doctors or the sort of anatomists in one of the colleges, just as like a curiosity, pretty much. Why it's in the sarcophagus, you don't know.
Okay. And does the leather circle look valuable?
It doesn't necessarily look valuable, but it's in like immaculate condition. It looks almost new.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the rules would govern the contents of a grave, but it seems like it would make sense that they do.
He only mentioned books.
That's very true. The janitor basically was like, "Don't steal books, and you grant them."
Yep.
I will take the surcoat.
Absolutely fine. It feels almost like feather light to the touch as you sort of easily like take it off the skeleton and not lift it up.
So
Okay.
where was the pickled fetus? Is it still in the...
It was basically the body was laid out and it was like holding it on its chest.
Yeah.
So I've
I
actually
presume...
picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have had to move it to take the coat off.
Yeah.
I'll offer it to Jackdaw.
The fetus or the...
Yes,
circle?
the fetus.
Yeah. Okay.
So the friar's like, "Oh, swanky new coat, fetus."
You get the devil fetus.
Yeah.
I will take it graciously and put it in my backpack,
Okay.
because you never know when you need one.
Okay.
Never know when you might need the old devil fetus.
You have a mutant baby in a jar. If you give it to the right person, it's worth 200 silver pieces.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to know who that person is.
Yeah.
Basically, anyone at the Grand College who's like an anatomist or a
Yeah.
sort of whatever the equivalent of like a biologist is in this time.
Yeah.
You'd easily be out, because obviously they have to rely on sort of like criminals to like get like bodies for like chopping up and for anatomy lessons. But you know, when they can get like, you know, from circuses and stuff like that, people with like deformities, they tend to be like.
We never get involved in any of that. Just let the record show that the Butcher family never get involved in any of that sort of stuff.
I understand.
Wink, wink.
Wink.
Yeah, I will stash it away and. Oh boy.
See what your relatives are like.
Well, I think it's quite early to say, just from a stone carving, really.
Well, I'm just saying that is an uncanny resemblance, Jackdaw, me old mate.
I wonder if it's just because I crawled out of the river, though. Maybe I looked different before.
You may have done.
Yeah.
You haven't. I don't wish to be indelicate, but you haven't had.
No,
any...
I'm all about that delicateness. I have the fucking wafers over here.
They don't call me Jackdaw the Delicate for nothing. Oh, good sir, tush and fire.
You haven't had any sort of a romantic liaisons lately with any ladies at all?
Oh, I mean, look at me. It's
Carry on talking, guys.
Yeah,
I'm back in a
make
second.
a fair point.
I don't.
I'm just.
I've had
concerned.
other things on the schedule, you know.
Yeah. I'm just feeling a little bit concerned with these demon fetuses or whatever.
But it must be really old, though.
Yeah.
And valuable.
Yeah. So whatever.
To the right weirdo.
Yeah. I mean,
No shortage of weirdos in Great London.
no.
That's
and
a fact.
The college is full of them.
Yeah.
There's two.
They're the
right
worst.
here. Yeah. So Sir Isaac got up to some interesting stuff, I guess.
Hmm. Let's cover up his. Let's close his sarcophagus.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sooner the better.
Yeah.
Yep. So John, we closed the sarcophagus of Sir Isaac.
Okay.
Okay.
Isaac the weirdo.
So now that we robbed the tomb of maybe my ancestor, should we proceed with something equally nefarious in some other locale?
Yes. Yes, we should.
You're a real stand-up guy, Jackdaw. I must say that.
Okay, so basically, Dunstan, you've like whooped the Serco time. Jackdaw, you've put the demon baby in your bag.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so are you planning just to like push on, or?
Yeah, onwards, I guess.
Okay.
John, is there any way that I might be able to get me crowbar back?
Yeah, if you head back to the portcullis, you snatch it away. The portcullis slams down.
All right, sound.
No problems.
Fuck or all else.
Okay.
That's my
Might come in handy again.
Yeah, that's my primary weapon, that is. If it kicks off.
So John, sorry, just to check, the squid thing wasn't really like carrying anything, was it? Just the soul vessel, and then.
Well, yeah, that's still there. This glass container with mist in it.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, let's turn out his pockets.
Yeah, I'll snatch the soul repository, because
That's fine.
you know I'm gonna need that. So
We may need to return that.
yeah,
Friar Dunstan will say as you pick it up.
yeah, it's just like to figure out like where this is from.
Yeah.
I will investigate the books to figure out what books they were, because I presume they will be close by where this thing is from. So
Okay, indeed they are. Okay, as you're sort of like looking around this mausoleum, I suppose you're like looking at the books that are around there. A lot of them appear to deal with sort of like almost like legendary figures from history. So like like King Arthur and stuff like that. People have almost become like legends because so little is actually known about them. There's some stuff here about Hadrian, who's supposed to build Hadrian's Wall, the legendary like Roman general. They're a mixture of sort of like historical tidbits and sort of fantastic legends and rumours about these historical people.
And the 3 books that were destroyed, are they the same? Oh.
Okay, the 3 books that were destroyed. I will tell you what they are.
I wonder if we should like try and tidy them up a little bit. And
I mean, we can just let's take the remains while we're at it, because we need to return this because we don't want to get killed by books.
Okay.
Death by paper cuts.
2 of them appear to be gothic horror novels dealing with like being haunted by various spirits. The 3rd book appears to be a genealogy tome charting royal bloodlines across the years.
oh, let's look up and see if Jackdaw's in there, or do we know the lineage of the lieutenant?
Yes.
You know, yeah. We could see if he's in there, just out of curiosity.
You want to see if Jackdaw's in there or the lieutenant's?
Yeah, I
in
want to see if we want to see if because Jackdaw's really the man in question.
there? Okay, Jackdaw, can you please roll me a d6? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to decide this now. What is Jackdaw's real name? 'Cause obviously he wasn't christened Jackdaw.
No, he wasn't. Okay. Ein Minuten bitte.
Isn't you French?
At least he knows Gaulish.
You could be a Viking, man, in that Normandy sort of region.
Yeah, I got the first name. I'm just gonna figure out the surname.
That's absolutely fine. In fact, you don't need to figure a surname. Just tell me what the first name is.
Oh, Renaud. I'll put it in there.
Okay, that's fine. No, it's spell Renaud. So, handily for you guys is just because obviously you're having to like pick up the tatters of this book and like try and shuffle the pages back together because this squid creature just like decimated it with its claw. As you're sort of picking up the pages between you all, because they're scattered everywhere, and you're putting them together, you come across a page which has a sort of obviously it's stylized, but it has a drawing on it that is pretty much a dead ringer for Jackdaw, although better dressed, and it says Reynold Oculon.
Oui, oui.
Mon Dieu.
And as you could obviously now you've got that name, you find sort of like the family tree page, and you're looking down it. You can see that the line of the previous king Oculon, sort of ended because he had no heirs, and that's when Queen Elspeth became the ruling monarch. But you can see that someone, like, obviously this has been like done very fancy now, that someone sort of like, almost as an afterthought, sketching it in, has drawn a line from the old King Oculon down to this Reynold Oculon.
Ah, you're bleeding royalty, mate.
I don't know about all this.
That's why they nobbled you. That's why they nobbled you.
I don't know about a lot of things, though. So I guess that fits the picture.
Certainly,
They nobbled you.
certainly, Friar Dunstan, as you're looking over this and you're more familiar with these sort of illustrated tomes and stuff like that, this book seems to be suggesting that Reynold Oculon, assuming that is Jackdaw, is a direct heir and descendant to the previous King Oculon.
Okay.
No wonder he ended up in the. It's not the Thames, is it? Is it?
Yeah,
It's
the Great Thames Water.
The Great Thames Water.
The Thames Water.
So, from what you know, Fry Dunstan, if what this says is true, and this person is Jackdaw actually has a better claim to the throne than the person who's currently sat on it.
Okay. And how long has she been sat on it?
Oh, she's been sat on the throne for must be at least 10, 20 years.
Okay. Okay. But Friar Dunstan will be very happy to hear that because he is not a fan.
No, I ain't a fan either. She's a bleeding pain in my butt.
Oh, them bloody taxes.
Bleeding taxes, bleeding the poor dry she is. I'll give her taxes.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't take the
You
book
get
out.
me in front of that. You get me in front of that Elspeth. I'll give her a piece of my mind.
No, but we can
then I'll
copy
get
it.
executed.
Yeah, we can copy it. That's true.
Yes. And bring the copy with us, no problem. It's just the book itself can't leave the library.
Yeah, and I guess bringing the royal court here is a bit out of the question.
Well, maybe we could bring the mad bitch here and leave her here.
I know enough about this stuff. I know what we need to do. We need to stage a coup.
A coop like for pigeons, chickens.
Yeah, a coup.
I don't get it.
COOP. Coup.
A coup. B.
Coup. What are you on about? It's a coup.
We just devolve.
Yeah, I love before you're like, oh my god, I might be the heir to the throne, and then spend like 10 minutes arguing about how to pronounce coop.
Either way,
Coup.
regardless of your pigeons and the chickens, I guess we have the parchment. I don't. Do you mind, Friar? We copy this. I have the ink though as well, and I pull out the ink. So I don't know if we want to use this.
Okay. You reach in your pocket. There's nothing there.
I will like pat everything down just in case I don't see it, but I may be still able to feel it. So I'll pat everything down to
you
make
pat
sure.
your pockets, and you do indeed feel like the outline of the file that contained the ink.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you look in your pocket, you can't see anything in there.
But if I put my hands on the fabric, I can feel the thing there. It's very strange.
Is that the ink? Is that the ink from the room with the chalk monster?
Yeah, it's the only ink I have. Yes.
Ah, the invisible ink.
Yeah, apparently that's what it is now. This isn't. Let me tell you, this isn't like citrus oils. This is something else.
But you could see it. You could see it before, though, couldn't you?
Yeah, because I picked it up.
Yeah.
Can any of us
The
see this?
lieutenant's like, what are you all on about?
Yeah, well, he didn't see it at all, that bloke. He ain't got a clue.
So I will squeeze it out of my pocket, supposedly onto my palm.
So
like,
you do that. You can see
We're all
him.
there looking at you.
So Fry Dunstan, you can see him holding his hand out, as can you, Big Mick, and there's this glass vial of ink on his palm. You, the lieutenant, and Jackdaw don't seem to be able to see it at all, although you can feel it on your palm, Jackdaw. Yeah, Big Mick and Fry Dunstan can see it.
Well, it's there, mate. Plain as a nose on your face.
strange. Okay, you hold on to it. I'll offer it to Friar because I can't see it anymore. So
Yeah, so he just,
Yeah, well, I don't want it.
You're gonna shout it louder, man. Shut up.
15-year-olds, you need them, don't you?
I'll take your word for it.
So I'll take the ink and store it away with the other magical inks.
Okay.
But I do have some mundane ink, so when we do settle down for the night, I can copy the genealogy tome.
Okay.
what do you think? I guess if any of this is true, either with Lord Isaac here or the King Oculon. So I guess it probably stands to reason that the reason you dredged me up from the river is because of the relation. So that's probably bad news for me. Being out on the street. That might be it. I think good thing I have this scarf. And I just like grab one of the scarves that's on my arm and just like attach it one more scarf to my face. Just like
That's fine.
better keep that locked up because I don't want to end up in the river again.
No, but you could be the hope that is needed to save the city.
I don't feel a lot these days, but that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. And then, like, he says this, like, just covered in this squid man blood.
Yeah, I'll just be like sweeping a bit of brain off my shirt.
It's just like, oh, there goes my childhood.
With the revelations about Jackdaw's potential link to the old royal family still buzzing around in his head, the group decide to push on further into the library. The shelves give way to what appears to be a huge machine built of clockwork and steam pumps. It's an incredibly complex array of cogs and mechanisms. It hisses, creaks, clicks, and turns. In the front and centre of this huge mechanism is what appears to be some sort of terminal. There are tiles in front of it marked with letters A to Z, numbers 0 to 9, and punctuation marks. Above the tiles there is a slot from which emerges a long ribbon of paper that winds down into a huge pile on the floor like ticker tape. A mechanical pen seems to be writing on the tape as it's filing past it, and more is extruded from the mechanism.
I'm feeling this is a little bit beyond Mick's capability.
Can we see what it's writing?
Okay, yeah, it appears to be some sort of calculation. It's writing numbers and letters, and it appears to be trying to calculate or work out something. And as you look at the tape on the floor again, you can see it's this incredibly long, detailed calculation. It's a bit beyond you mathematically. However, occasionally you can see spots where there's words where it says things like contradictory, confirmed, not found, unknown input, sort of at intervals. And sorry, go ahead.
So can we see where there's any inputs into the device?
Well, like I say, you can see effectively these keys in front of it, but as you look at the ticker tape, you can see that before each time where it says date, confirmed, contradictory, etc., there's what appears to be a question that's been typed in. So someone's typed in, it is the current Queen Elspeth, and then it says confirmed.
So what's activating the keys?
Nothing at the moment. It just appears to be doing this calculation, but it looks as though in the past someone's typed stuff in and then it's given an answer and then carried on with its calculation.
Oh, right.
Oh.
Well, I have a question. I don't know about you guys, but I have a question.
So what are you typing in?
Right.
It seems to be talking about. Yeah, because it's not. I just realized I need to specify my question a lot in order for this to work. If it works the way I think it does, so I guess I'll type it in. Is Reynold Oculon a direct descendant of the King Oculon?
Do you want me to use the crowbar?
I think it's quite fine.
You type that in, and the mechanical pen on a brass armature goes and writes on the ticker tape, and you see it says confirmed, as it like scrolls past.
Is Reynold Oculon alive? Question mark.
Confirmed.
Oh,
And then I'll move on firmly to the realm of just pure speculation, because I don't know if this works at all, but I'll just write right there. Am I Reynold Oculon? I don't know if it's equipped to deal with that sort of thing, but
Confirmed.
Ooh.
I guess I'll turn towards the camera, and it's like,
Indeed.
bullshit.
You look up saying, oh shit, and as you look up, you can see from the passageways behind this machine what appear to be 4 grey-robed figures slowly walking towards the machine and all of you. And that is where we're going to end the session for this evening, guys. Thank you very much for playing. I hope you all enjoyed the session.